Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about audit documentation. Okay, so the learning objective is to understand the purposes of audit documentation. We can see here that audit documentation is the principal record of auditing procedures applied, evidence obtained, and conclusion reached by the auditor in the engagement. So basically, audit documentation is everything that the auditor does in the audit process. So it records the steps, the evidence obtained, and also the conclusion. So all the process needs to be written down or filed in a document. So the auditor has documentation of what audit process have they done in that audit. Okay, so there are several things that we are going to discuss. First is the purpose of audit documentation, the ownership of audit files, and also the confidentiality of audit files. So the Sarbanes-Oxley Act requires auditors of public companies to prepare and maintain audit working papers for a period of no less than 7 years. So this is the law in the US that requires auditors to prepare and maintain audit working papers or documentation. So the audit documentation is called as working papers. Okay, and the working papers needs to be saved for at least 7 years. So after 7 years, if the auditors want to destroy that working papers, it actually does not break the law. So in Indonesia, it is in the audit standard. The audit standard also require auditor to prepare and maintain audit working papers. But now we have technology, so the auditors can save the files of the audit documentation in the computer, right? So it can be more than 7 years. But the law stated that the auditor is required to save the documents for at least 7 years. Okay, the next one is to prepare organized audit documentation. So the audit file contains an organization consists of these documents. So the first one is permanent files. We will discuss about permanent files in the next slide. And then audit programs. Audit programs is the steps that the auditor does from the first step until the last, until they make the conclusion. And then this is the general information about the company. The internal control condition, we haven't discussed about internal control yet. Maybe our next meeting, we will discuss about this. And then test of controls and also substantive test of transaction, analytical procedures, assets, liabilities, and equity, operation, contingent liabilities, adjusting journal entries, working trial balance, and financial statement. We will see the working trial balance after this slide. So when the auditor examine the financial statement and then they find some mistakes, probably, they will make some adjusting journals and they will write down in this part, and then they will also write down the adjusting journal in working trial balance, so they will find the correct amount. We will see the example in the next slide. Okay, so first, permanent files are intended to contain data of historical or continuing nature pertinent to the current audit. So permanent files are the files that are used more than 1 year, like the land certificate or probably the business license of the company. These files are usually the same, right? For this years and the next years are the same. So it is include in permanent files. Okay, and the next one is current files. Current files are the files that are used only for the current year. So the next year, the file will be different. So the examples of current files are audit program, general information about the company, working trial balance, adjusting and reclassification entries, and supporting schedules. We will see the example of these three in the next slide. Okay, so this is the example of working trial balance. So this is the first one is financial statement. And then below that, there are working trial balance, and this is the adjustment entry. So when the auditor checks the financial statement, they check first, they check the cash account, right? So they see from the financial statement where the company already made. This is the beginning, the balance that the company count for the cash. It is 212. Okay. So after the auditor find this number to 212, and then the auditor check the evidence regarding cash. Okay, we can see in the next slide, the auditor can check can do cash count, or they count the cash that is in the company, and then they will do a bank reconciliation, and they will make confirmations, and then they will check the general ledger and so on. So after the auditor does the checking process or the auditing process, they find that there is misstatement for the amount of 90. So after the auditor found the 19 as a misstatement, they will make an adjustment like this one, expense 90 and the credit is cash 90. So this amount of adjustment, the auditor will put it in here in the working trial balance. The first is the balance from the company, 212, and this is the adjustment from the auditor, 90. So the final balance for cash will be 122, like that. So the auditor will put the final balance in the audited financial statement here. So the cash accounts, the balance will be 122, like that. Okay. So actually in making the working trial balance, the auditor makes lead schedule or top schedule. So for each account, there will be lead schedules. So for cash, there will be a lead schedule for cash, like that. And inventory will have its own lead schedule, inventory, like that. Then after all the accounts are checked on each lead schedule, they will put all the accounts in the working trial balance, like that. Okay, we can see here the auditor count the petty cash, the cash in banks. Okay, and the lead schedule, this lead schedule will be supported by supporting schedule. These are supporting schedules. So the auditor make bank reconciliation, and then cash count, confirmation, okay, outstanding checklist, and so on. So these are the supporting schedules that supports the lead schedules. Okay, we can see the number here. Okay, so the lead schedule for cash, we can see there is numbering here, A1. And then the supporting will be numbered A2, A3, and A3 will be supported by A31, A32. This A4 is supported by A41, A42, like that. So every documents in the audit documentation will be numbered like this. So the auditor can know which the documents belong to like this. Okay. So the supporting documents belong to this lead schedule and so on. Okay. So this is types of supporting schedules. Supporting schedule is this one. So supporting schedule is the one supporting the lead schedule, and the lead schedule will end here in the working trial balance. And after all the working trial balance is finished, it will go to the audited financial statement. Okay, so the supporting schedule consists of analysis, trial balance or list, reconciliation of amounts, and also test of reasonables. Okay, these are more types of supporting schedule. There are summary of procedures, examination of supporting documents, informational, and also outside documentation. Probably in the end of the semester, we can try to make audit documentation. Okay, so the preparation of audit documentation. Each audit file should be properly identified, and documentation should be indexed and cross-referenced. Index and cross-reference is what I already explained before. This is index and cross-reference. So cross-reference means later here in the working trial balance, it will also be written here, cash A, like that. So the manager of the auditor can see the cash has supporting documents has with the number A. So we can see here the number is A1 and then A2, A3 like that. So if we put A behind the cash here, so we can see that the index A is supporting cash. Okay, and then completed documentation must clearly indicate the audit work performed. It should include sufficient information and it should plainly state the conclusion reached. Okay, so the documentation must be complete and also clear. Okay, this is the effect of technology to the audit documentation. So audit evidence is increasingly in electronic form, and auditors must evaluate how electronic information affects their ability to gather evidence. And auditors use computers to read and examine evidence, and also software programs are typically Windows-based. Okay. Okay, it's actually end. So the audit documentation is owned by the auditor and it's secret information like we already discussed. Audit documentation cannot be seen by other people than the auditor, like that. Okay, so this is the end of our discussion about audit documentation, and thank you very much.